Today we are going to discuss our new chapter, reproduction. Reproduction is one of the process in our life process. What is life process? Life process is a very important functions in our body. When an organism is lived, when an organism is alive, the life process should work in its body. For example, respiration, nutrition, etc. etc. Reproduction is also one of the life process in an organism. It may be plant or animals. But we know reproduction is very difficult process in the life of an organism. It takes a very big effort for reproduction. In the case of human, a female in human take 10 months for giving birth to his new offspring. She suffer a lot and tolerate with very high pain in her body. But she was ready for that. Why? Why an organism? We can take another example also. In normal case, a cat, suppose a cat in our home. If it gives birth to its new one, it may be attack the other persons in the home or other cat or all other animals, because it wants to protect its child. In the case of human or all other organisms, they take a very big, a very high effort for giving birth and the protection of its offspring. Why? That's my question. Why these organisms takes this much of effort for reproduction? Simply we can say that it's a natural process. It's an inborn tendency for reproduction. If there is no inborn tendency for reproduction, no species will alive in the earth, because no organism will take to risk for reproduction. So it's an inborn tendency for reproduction. It's a natural process for the existence of each and every species. In this chapter, we are going to discuss different types of reproductions and reproduction human. Reproduction may be defined as a biological process by which organisms give rise to their own kind. This is the definition of reproduction. Reproduction is defined as the biological process by which organisms give rise to their own kind. An organism gives birth to their own kind is known as reproduction. There are two types of reproductions: asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, bacteria, protozoa, etc. and plants give a birth to new one with a single parent. In the case of asexual reproduction in microorganisms, all the microorganisms are single-celled organisms. This single cell splits and produce a new one. This is an asexual reproduction. And also in the case of plants, as we know, we use the stem of some plants for new one. Such type of reproductions, a reproduction which involves only a single individual give rise to birth for a new one, gives a new one. This is known as asexual reproduction. For sexual reproduction, two individuals of different gender is compulsory, a male and a female, just like human, dog, birds, etc. For the production of new offspring, it is compulsory for the interaction of a male and a female of the same species. For the case of asexual reproduction, a single individual gives birth to new one. We are going to discuss about the asexual reproduction. We already studied about the asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction in your previous class. Reproduction by single individuals takes place in many ways in lower organisms like bacteria, protozoa and some algae. And also in plants also asexual reproduction is common. Asexual reproduction lower organisms. First one, binary fission. A cell may divide to give rise to two individuals and lose its own identity. For example, it's a binary fission for amoeba. First, this is a single celled organism, amoeba. Its nucleus is like this. This nucleus first splits into two. Then all the cell separates just like this. Then each two cells separated. So the identity of the parent amoeba is diminishing and two new daughter amoebas produced. This is known as binary fission in the case of amoeba and many other single-celled organisms, and its reproduction method is binary fission. There is another type of fission. It is known as multiple fission. In multiple fission, a single organism gives rise to births for more than one organisms. A single cell splits into many cells and loses its own identity is known as multiple fission. Another one is budding. Bud means you may hear about buds of flowers. A bud is formed and it grows and forms as a flower. Just like this, a small bud is formed in some microorganisms and some plants, and it grows and detaches from parent, become a new individual. In the budding is normally occur in the case of yeast. You may hear about yeast. A small bud first formed and then it extends and finally detaches from the parent. Just like this, first its nucleus elongates and splits and forms a new one and separate from the parent. And Hydra also do the reproduction just like budding. Spore formation is another one. Spore is just like a seed, but it is the product of a asexual reproduction. The cytoplasm and nucleus of algae such as Chlamydomonas divide successively to form 4 to 8 spores. These all spores become a new individual when it get a desired conditions. There are many plants also reproduce just like spores. Asexual reproduction in plants. It's vegetative propagation. What is the vegetative part of a plant? Vegetative part is the part like stem, root and leaf. These three parts are vegetative parts. In many plants, these vegetative parts grows into a new plant. Some plants, it may be grows a new plant from its stem. Some other plants it may be by using roots. In the case of some other plants it may be its leaf. This type of reproduction is known as vegetative propagation. There is many plants and its different parts used for reproduction. In our rose, you may not be know about the plants growing here in Kerala, and I don't know about the plants in your place. You can see some plants in your place. We want to cut its stem and put in soil, we get a new plant. In the case of some other plants, we use leaves. For some other plants, we use roots, etc., etc. All these are vegetative parts, and we get new plant from its vegetative part. Then artificial propagation plants. We are discussing all this in our next sem in detail. Artificial propagation means we use different artificial methods for getting new plants. It may be by using its stem, leaf or roots growing artificially. You may hear about budding, cutting, layering, etc., etc. We cut the growing part of a plant and attach it to another plant by applying some special nutrients. This cutting grows into a new plants. You may see a fruit in a small plant. A small mango tree gives mango, and a small chiku tree gives chiku, etc., etc. By using these methods, artificial propagation methods, we can cut the piece of branch which are going to reproduce, which are going to flower, make flower. Then we artificially grow this part, and it may give fruit earlier than other plants. There is a lot of other methods for artificial propagation. Then other methods are tissue culture and cloning. Micropropagation, that means tissue culture. We separate tissues from the growing part of a plant. Then artificially growing these tissues in an artificial medium. After getting a desired growth, we plant this into a soil, and it grows as usual and gives fruit, gives its product earlier than other plants. Suppose a plant, normally it takes 10 months for giving fruit. By artificial propagation, by micropropagation, tissue culture, we get fruit from that plant with 5 months or 6 months, and get a high result also. Suppose a mango tree gives mango of 100 grams. When we use tissue culture, it may be 200 grams. And when a mango tree takes 5 years to give its fruit, by using tissue culture, we get fruit within 1 or 2 years. These are the use of micropropagation. And also we can take healthy tissues, and we get a healthy plant. Another one is cloning. A clone is genetic copy of the parent. Suppose in the case of human, we reproduce by the sexual intercourse of a male and female. In our sexual cells, it contains only the half chromosomes. So half chromosome of mother and half chromosome of parent gives a new child. But in the case of cloning, we take the full chromosome of a single parent. Suppose take a cell in my body and clone it. Then we get a result. We get a baby just like me. When I born, what is the condition of me? It's same as the cloning. So we get a exact copy of parent. Normally we take cell from an organism and a ovum of a female body and remove the nucleus of ovum and put the nucleus of the cell we want to clone into that ovum and grow it in normal case. We can discuss this also in our next sum in detail. Dolly is a sheep. We first clone it, and international court restrict the cloning in human because it results a lot of problems in the life of human. Suppose a boy is cloned and maybe two identical ones. It also makes many problems. So these are the asexual methods normally we use in our normal case. Cloning and tissue culture is we didn't use in normal case. In the case of plants, we follow all the asexual methods of reproduction. Surrogate mother means a female animal in whose womb an embryo from another female of the same kind is developing. We can discuss this also in our next term in detail.